Hi, Steve here with digitalphotographygear.com, and today I'm reviewing the Canon 16-35 f2.8L lens version 2. I have it here mounted on my 5D Mark II, and this lens comes with the EW88 lens hood here, and it also comes with the little leather pouch that Canon gives away with most of their L lenses. I'm just going to go over some of the physical features of this lens, talk about image quality a bit, and compare it to the 17-40L as well a little later on. So physically, on the outside, this lens is very solidly built. It's a little less than 1.5 pounds, so it's decently heavy. It's not too bad though. Definitely, you can definitely carry it around with you for a good long time. The hood here just is a standard bayonet mount. It's pretty wide and pretty big though. Definitely adds a lot of size to the end of the barrel of this lens. Doesn't offer a whole lot in the way of protection, but it will block a little light coming in from the sides. But since it is an ultra-wide lens, it's really tough to get the hood to be very protective or deep at all. So it's that's just a physical limitation of the focal length. It has the EF mount, so it'll fit any full-frame APS-H or APS-C sensor size SLR from Canon. You don't have to worry about like the EFS lens is not fitting, but all of Canon's L lenses are the standard EF mount, so they'll fit any of Canon's SLRs. It is weather sealed and dust resistant, so it's definitely made for more rigorous environments. But keep in mind that in order to complete the weather sealing, you do need a screw-on filter at the end of the barrel here, and it is a 82mm filter size. So it's the biggest screw-on filter size that Canon has on any of their lenses. And filters they can be definitely expensive when you get up to that size filter. So keep that in mind. A decent quality filter, don't be surprised if it costs $100 or $200, but it is necessary to complete the weather sealing. So that's I have one on the end of mine here as well. So the zoom and focus rings are both nice, smooth, well damped, not really any play in them to speak of. The front objective element of this lens does move back and forth as you zoom in and out, but it is contained within the inner barrel of the lens, so there are no protruding elements as you zoom in and out, so that's nice. Oh, and if you do use a filter, be sure to use a slim filter and not one of regular thickness, because at 16mm you can definitely notice some vignetting, and the vignetting will be pronounced more so if you're using a regular thickness filter. So keep that in mind as well. And also, of course, the distance scale and autofocus, manual focus switch does also have full-time manual focus. So you can just leave it on autofocus and then adjust accordingly as you need to. The autofocus is very fast and accurate and silent. It has the USM, the ultrasonic motor, so yeah, the focusing is really nice. I never really miss focus with this lens, especially if you're shooting at a narrower aperture like f8 or f16. Almost everything's going to be in focus anyway. So if you're shooting at 2.8 though, focus never misses, and yeah, very accurate. So I'm happy with that. The images that come out of the 16-35 are very impressive. The center of the image is always sharp, regardless of what aperture or focal length you're shooting at. Yeah, very sharp center images at 2.8 to f22. 16mm to 35mm are really nice. The only problems that I have with this lens are the vignetting, the barrel distortion, and the edge softness. And those three things are really only noticeable if you're shooting at 16mm or close to 16mm, and if you're shooting at f2.8 or f4. So yeah, barrel distortion is pretty pronounced at 16mm. A little bit of pin cushioning at 35mm, but but the barrel distortion is what you're going to notice more so. And as I mentioned, the vignetting, it can get, it's definitely pronounced at 16 millimeters, close to 16 millimeters as well. And like I mentioned, if you're using a filter, be sure to get a slim filter, because if you use a regular one, you're definitely going to notice it more. But zoom in a little bit to 20 millimeters and on, and the vignetting isn't really a problem at all. And you won't notice it unless you're using a full frame camera as well. You might notice a little on APS-H sensor size body, but you really won't notice any vignetting if you're using a 1.6 crop body APS-C. So that's something worth mentioning. And the edge softness, if you're shooting at f2.8, especially towards 16 millimeters, you are going to notice the edges of your images aren't going to be as sharp as the center of your image. But stop the lens down to 5.6 or so, and everything sharpens up nicely. So it's just something to be aware of if you're shooting wide open, and at 16 millimeters, the only real usable part of your image is going to be near the center. So something to keep in mind there. Flare and chromatic aberration are both handled really well with this lens. Yeah, the L quality optics are just handle those things really well, as one would expect with a lens of this quality and cost. A lot of people compare the 16 to 35 L with the 17 to 40 L. 17 to 40 is roughly a comparable focal range. The main differences are that it is an f4 fixed aperture, whereas the 16 to 35 is an f2.8. So if you're in low light scenarios and you need a faster shutter speed to stop motion or something like that, I would definitely go with the 16 to 35, just because it does have twice the light gathering capabilities as the 17 to 40. Overall, the 16 to 35 is just overall better quality optics. Images are going to be a little bit sharper, edge softness won't be as pronounced, and distortion is handled a little better as well. So it is substantially more expensive though. So if you're a landscape shooter and you're mostly using f11, f16, f22, and you don't necessarily need the light gathering capabilities of f2.8, then the 17 to 40 can definitely save you a substantial amount of money. But if you are in low light scenarios and you really need the best quality optics, then 16 to 35 would be the choice for you. Actually, these two pictures that you see behind me here, they were both shot with the 16 to 35. It's definitely great quality. You can get unique and unusual perspectives with the ultra-wide lens. It's great for tight spaces where a longer lens wouldn't be able to capture the entire scene. I feel as though it's not necessarily a good lens or a good choice for if you're using a 1.6 crop factor APS-C body. If I were like a 60D, a 7D, or a Rebel, I would go more with the 17 to 55 EFS f2.8. It's specially designed for the APS-C sensor sizes, and it just has a much more usable focal range, being 17 millimeters to 55 millimeters as opposed to 16 to 35. You get an extra 20 millimeters worth of reach at the longer end, and it's also again substantially cheaper than the 16 to 35. But I feel like this lens is more designed to be an ultra-wide zoom lens on a full frame, and it does a great job of that. So if that's what you're looking for, I definitely recommend it. There are other choices available if you don't necessarily need the light gathering of f2.8 or the superb quality optics, but this is definitely top of the line and has my thumbs up. So that's my review of the Canon 16 to 35 f2.8L USM lens version 2. Join me next time when I review some more gear on digitalphotographygear.com.